Okay, we're still factoring polynomials. We're going to learn a method of factoring a trinomial of the type x squared plus bx plus c by examining the constant term c. So when you go to factor x squared plus 7x plus 12, the first thing you need to look at is the sign of this common term. Okay, because it is positive, then the two factors that we find that make up 12 will give us a positive 7. So the first thing I do is I go over here and I'm going to write 1 times 12. So I'm writing the factors of 12. 2 times 6 gives me 12. 3 times 4 gives me 12. And so I'm going to stop right there because we said they would be positive. That's all the factors of 12. Which one of those, if I were to go in and change this to a plus sign, would give us 7? Well, that would give us 12. That one would give us 8. This one would give us 7. So those are our factors. So if I take an x and I put it here, and it's plus, I'm going to open up another set of parentheses, an x and a plus, and then I'm just going to take those two terms that we found, which was a 3 and a 4, and that closes out our set of parentheses. And if we FOIL those back, they will give us the x squared plus 7x plus 12. Remember, we FOIL. So what we really did, we just did a quick version of unfoil. So to factor x squared bx plus c when c is positive, which is what we did, we look at the sign when it is positive. That's this one right here. We look at this sign here, and both factors would be whatever that is. So in this case, it's going to be x. Whoops. Let's see if I can write a little neater. Okay, it's going to be x minus 2 times x minus 5. And again, because this is plus, they're going to be whatever this sign is. So in this case, it's going to be x plus 2 and x plus 5. So those are some of the tricks that you need to do. So let's look at this one. What's the sign? It's positive. These are negative, so our factors are going to be negative. So we need factors of 15 when multiplied are going to give us, factors of 15 when added together are going to give us a negative 8. And remember, our factors have to be negative. So we get negative 1 times negative 15 gives us a positive 15. Negative 3 times a negative 5 gives us negative 15, gives us positive 15. And that's all the factors. Now if I go in here and drop a plus sign, let's see what we get. So negative 15 plus a negative 1 is going to give us a negative 16. Well, that's not going to do us any good. Negative 3 plus a negative 5 gives us a negative 8. That's the one we're looking for. So then we're just going to set up two sets of parentheses, y minus and y minus, and then we're just going to drop in what we found. We found a 3 and a 5, and we're done. And if you FOIL those back, you would come back to that original trinomial. Now, when the constant term c is negative, you look at the two numbers whose product is negative. One must be positive and the other one must be negative. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this. This is negative, and so you don't even look at the other one as far as to determine what the signs are. But if you can think of factors of negative 21 and write them down, and you want them to add up to that middle term, the larger one's going to have to add up, or the larger one's going to have the sign of this b term here. In this case, it's a negative 4. So we know x plus 3 and x minus 7. See that negative 7 is the larger of the two factors of negative 31. Now, again, you look here, and this is positive, so now the larger number is going to be positive instead of negative. So that's why the signs change, and a lot of times that's where the biggest mistakes are made. So we have to do some practice problems. So we're going to look here. This is negative. So I'm going to go over here, and I know my larger number has to be negative. So factors of negative 24. So 1 times 24, and remember the larger one's negative, so it's going to be 1 times a negative 24. Gives me a negative 24. 2 times a negative 12 gives me a negative 24. 3 times a negative 8, if I can get that to right, gives me a negative 24. And then 4 times a negative 6 gives me a negative 24. And then it starts back over. So if we go ahead and drop a plus sign, let's see if we can find that middle term. That's not a plus sign on that negative 8. Kind of missed my mark there a little bit. So 1 plus a negative 24 is going to give us a negative 23. 2 plus a 2 plus a negative 12 gives us a negative 10. Let me get that 4 written better. And then 3 plus a negative 8 gives us a negative 5. And then 4 plus a negative 6 gives us a negative 2. So did we find our answer? We did. It's this one right here. So when we go to put these in, again, we just do like we did before. We put an X. And again, the larger number is going to be negative. So we have X minus 8, and then we have X plus 3. So let's try another one. Now we have t squared minus 32 plus 4t. This is kind of out of order, so we need to put it in our right order that we're used to looking at. Remember, the signs are attached, so they go with it. Let me write that better. So now we have t squared plus 4t minus 32. So we're going to look at the minus 32, and then our larger one has to be positive. So factors of negative 32. So we have 32. Whoops, let's jot it the right way. How about 1 times 32, and remember the larger one has to be positive this time, so it's going to be negative 1, so it gives me negative 32. How about negative 2 times 16, that's going to give me negative 32. And then how about negative 3, nope, 3 didn't go in, 4 does, what is it? You're right, it's 8. So we get negative 4 times 8 equals negative 32. I'm going to stop right there, because if I go in and drop a plus sign where my multiplication operations were, we can go back and look. Negative 1 plus 32 is going to give us 31. Negative 2 plus 16 gives us 14. Negative 4 plus 8 gives us a positive 4. So I think we found what we're looking for. So we're going to drop a t. We'll drop the 8 in here because it was positive. We're going to drop another t, and this time it's going to be a negative 4. Again, if you foil those back, you would get the trinomial. Okay, this one factors a little bit different, but not quite a whole lot. We're just going to look at the factors of the 30b squared. Now remember, if it's b squared, the b's are going to wind up in two different things. So we're going to look here, this is negative, and this is positive. So factors of negative 30 when added together are going to give us a positive 1. So the larger nut factor has to be positive. So if we say negative 1 times 30, negative 2 times 15, negative 3 times 10, negative 5 times 6. I'm going to stop here because these two, if you say negative 5 plus 6, that gives you a 1, and that's what we wanted to look at. So now we're just going to drop in a plus 6b. You have to attach that variable there, and then a minus 5b. And you're finished. If you FOIL that back out, it would come back to the same thing. Prime polynomials. A polynomial that cannot be factored is considered prime, just like regular numbers that we have, like 2 and 3 and 5. So an example of a prime polynomial is x squared minus x plus 7. Often factoring requires 2 or more steps. Remember, when told to factor, you should factor completely. It's like simplifying fractions. You always take it down as far as you can. This means that the final factorization should contain only prime polynomials. Alright, step 1 is to always look and see if there's a GCF. And in this case, there is. So I'm going to take out a 2x. So now I'm left with x squared minus 12x plus 36. And then I'm going to look again and see if I can find anything that would factor the x squared minus 12x plus 36. So let's see if we can create a chart. Let's look at this. This is positive. I was trying to do blue. So this is positive, so we're going to look here. So both of our numbers are negative this time. So if I have negative 1 times negative 36, negative 2 times negative 18, negative 3 times negative 12, negative 4 times negative 9, negative 6 times negative 6. Now if we go in and put a plus sign, let's see if we can find one that would add up to negative 12. And it's this one right here. So now we have 2x, because that comes down, and we're just going to factor like we have done in the past. And so we're going to put these in here. Now these are the prime factorization. It takes all three of those multiples to create the trinomial 2x cubed minus 24x squared plus 72.